At night, in the middle of a stormy rain, there's an ambulance rushing a pregnant woman to the hospital. Afterwards, the doctor tells her husband, Greg, that unfortunately his wife has died and they couldn't save her. But luckily, they're able to save the baby, and he survives. But he tells him that the baby has a hereditary disease. This disease prevents skin cells from producing pigment, so the skin is extremely white. The doctor takes Greg to see the baby, who's in the incubator so they can run some tests. As soon as Greg sees the baby, he's shocked and very upset, and he tells them, "This can't be my son," and he refuses to take him. 20 years later, a police officer appears who is investigating the case of an old man's death on a farm. They tell him that the man died of a heart attack. When the police search the house, they find a basement underground, and inside they find a boy who looks strange, is very scared of them, and doesn't want to come out. This is what makes Doug suspicious of him. He asks them to bring the psychologist, Jessie, to help him. When Jessie arrives, she goes down to the basement and talks to him, reassuring him, so the boy comes out. His skin is extremely pale, and he tells her his name is Jeremy, but no one calls him by his name. They call him Powder because of his unusual skin color. And for the same reason, Powder has never left the house he lives in. When she asks him why he didn't call the police when his grandfather died, he tells her that his grandfather always warned him not to deal with people. He said that if anyone saw him, they would report him and take him away. And all of this is because of his strange skin color. That's why he spent his whole life hiding underground in this house. And he built a big library so he could learn from the books in it. He tells her that he has memorized every book in the library. So Jessie picks a big book that's taught in universities and tells him a specific page from the book. She's surprised when he's able to read the first paragraph of the page without a single mistake. After that, he goes out with Jessie and she takes him to the student city because now he's under the care of the state. When he got there, the other students kept staring at him, surprised by how he looked since they'd never seen anyone like that before. At night, while he's having dinner in the cafeteria, a group of bullying students come over and sit with him. One of them, named John, gets close to him and hands him a spoon, telling him to put it on his nose so they can make fun of him. He takes the spoon from John, holds it, and tries to balance it on the table. Suddenly, he pulls all the spoons in the place toward him, and they all stick to his spoon like magnets. Everyone in the restaurant is astonished and starts thinking he's some kind of strange being with supernatural powers. After that, he goes home and finds his son Steve, who had come to visit his mother, who was sick with a serious illness. It's clear that their relationship isn't good, as they pass by each other without even speaking. The doctor says that when she saw Steve, she felt better than she did from the medicine she's been taking. A few days later, Powder was in physics class with his classmates, and the teacher, Donald, was explaining a device that generates electric charges. When Donald turns on the device, Powder starts to feel uncomfortable and begins shaking violently. Suddenly, a bolt of electricity shoots out from the device, hits Powder, and sends him flying into the air while he keeps getting electrocuted. All the students there were terrified by what they were seeing. Donald tries to turn off the device, but he finds that it won't shut down. So he grabs a chair and smashes the device with it. Powder falls to the ground and passes out. Donald goes over to him to check if he's still alive or not. When he touches him, he feels something strange and the hair on his arm stands up, so he takes him to the hospital and explains to the doctor what happened. But the doctor doesn't believe him and tells him that a shock like that would kill someone, or at the very least leave a mark on their body. Donald tries to explain to the doctor that Powder has something that makes his body absorb electricity, and that's why he doesn't have any hair on his body. But the nurse interrupts them and tells them that they can't find Powder at all. They discover that he jumped out of the window when no one was in the room with him. Powder escapes and walks down the street until he runs into his classmate Lindsay, so he stops to say hi to her. While they're talking, there's a guy standing next to them, so Powder tells her that he can hear the thoughts of people around him. But she thinks he's hallucinating and that it's just a side effect from the electric shock he got, so he leaves her and heads toward his grandfather's old house. But on the way, Doug and his friend Duncan stop him, catch him, and take him back to the school again. And the school principal asks to see him. When Powder enters the office, the principal tells him that his IQ test results are over 300, which is much higher than the IQ of the smartest man in the world. Despite that, Powder doesn't pay any attention to him and says he just wants to go back to his grandfather's house. So she tells him that he can't go back home because the bank has repossessed it and it's no longer his. The next day, he goes on a camping trip with the students, along with Doug and his assistant. At night, they light a fire and gather around it, but they notice that Powder is sitting alone far away, so he goes to sit with him. While they're talking, thunder strikes, and Powder tells him that he can feel it throughout his whole body. He says that when he sees lightning, he feels like there's an electric current inside him, and he always says that his grandmother used to tell him that he is a god. But of course, he never believed her or was convinced by what she said, and he tells him that when his mother was pregnant with him, she was struck by lightning, and that's the reason for the condition he's in now. The next day, while he's walking in the forest, he runs into the bullies, John and Mitch, and for no reason, one of them points a rifle at him and says he could kill him right now. But then they hear the sound of gunfire nearby, and they all run over and find that Duncan was trying to hunt a deer right next to them. Powder goes over, clearly upset because he can feel everything the deer is feeling as it's dying. He puts his hand on the deer's neck and with his other hand grabs Duncan's hand, transferring to him every sensation the deer is experiencing as it dies right now. This makes Duncan fall to the ground and start convulsing from the pain, so he raises his rifle at him again and threatens to kill him if they don't leave him alone. But Powder just looks at him, unfazed, and keeps holding Duncan's hand, so John steps on the accelerator. But Mitch steps in at the last moment and saves Powder, and then they take Powder to Jessie, who starts to worry about his mental health and gets really concerned about his condition. She asks him why he did all that, but he ignores her question and tells her he just wants to go home again. And when she keeps asking him, he gets irritated and, unintentionally, energy bursts out of him and shatters all the glass in the office. He tells her he can't stand staying at the school much longer, then leaves her and walks out. At that time, he goes back home and tells the doctor that his wife's condition is unstable and her illness is getting worse. And Dogham is upset because there's nothing he can do, and his wife can't speak or tell him how she's feeling. The next day, Powder is sitting alone in the dining hall when Donk comes in and tells him that he's really impressed by his intelligence. And he explains to him Einstein's theory, which says that if a person used 100% of their intelligence, they could have extraordinary abilities, and that this might be the only explanation for Powder's condition. He gets closer to him and tries to touch him, and Powder starts crying as soon as he touches him because he couldn't believe that someone would actually do that. After that, Doug goes to his colleague's house after he quit his job and finds that he has removed all the weapons from his house. When he asks him why, Duncan tells him that when he killed the deer and Powder held his hand, he felt everything. He felt the deer's pain as it was dying, as if he himself was the one losing his life, not the deer, and that he has spent years killing animals and regrets all the pain he caused them. That's why he can no longer carry any weapon and resign from his job, so he drifts off. He starts thinking about his wife, who is in a coma and unable to speak, and he thinks that Powder might be able to help her heal, or at least ease her pain and tell him what she's feeling right now. So he actually takes Powder to his house and asks him to help her. So Powder sits next to her, puts his hand on her head, and transfers all her thoughts to him. He tells him that she's holding on to life and doesn't want to die until she's sure he's okay and that his relationship with their son, which is currently broken, is fixed. She asks him to restore their relationship and make it good again like it used to be. Doug hugs her and reassures her, and she opens her eyes for the first time in a long while and cries because she realizes that Doug has understood everything on her mind. And that ends up being the last time she ever opens her eyes. After that, Steve arrives at his mother's house to check on her. And as soon as Doug sees him, he hugs him, and Steven finds out that his mother has passed away. Their relationship goes back to how it was before, and they forget all the disagreements between them, all thanks to Powder. The next day, Powder goes out with his classmate, the one who never treated him like everyone else, and he tells her that he heard the thoughts of the people around him and that they think he was the one who killed Doug's wife. So he holds her hands and lets her hear his thoughts too, and she finds out that his father abandoned him when he was little because of the condition he has. She tells him that he's the most beautiful person she's ever seen in her life, and she gets closer to him and kisses him. But her father sees them sitting together, gets worried about his daughter, and goes to talk to Powder in a harsh way, hitting him and telling him not to come near her again. She runs over to them and ends the situation before it escalates. Powder goes back to the dorm, packs his bag, and decides to return to his home alone again. But as he's leaving, he hears a sound coming from the basketball court, and out of curiosity, he goes to check it out. But he finds John and his bully friends playing there. John goes over to him and, along with his friends, starts bullying him. They hear the sound of thunder outside and see that Powder is scared, so they forcefully drag him outside. They strip John of his clothes and throw him into a puddle of water, and he's really upset by what they're doing to him. Then they hear thunder and lightning again, and one of their chains gets lifted and all the metal objects are pulled toward Powder. He releases all the energy in his body, and everyone gets thrown away from him onto the ground. John falls down and his heart stops from the force of the energy he was exposed to. Powder puts his clothes back on, goes over to John, puts his hand on his chest, and tries to save him. He sends out electric charges from his hand to try to revive him from the shock, until John's heart starts beating again and he wakes up from the shock. After saving John, he continues on his way, leaving them behind. When he reaches his old house, he goes down to the basement and sits there alone. She arrives at the house because she was sure she would find him there. She goes down to the basement to Bader, apologizes to him, and tells him that she is the reason she took him from his home and all of this happened to him. Donald, who came with her to take him and escape the city, comes in on them. But as soon as they go out, they find his colleagues coming to arrest him, so she asks him to let Bader escape out of the city and live his life alone. So he didn't forget the favor Bader did for him when he stood by his side and helped his wife, and decided to let him escape freely and not arrest him. But his colleague doesn't agree and says that what he's doing is wrong and that he has to arrest him. He refuses to let him go and chases after him to catch him. But then there's lightning in the sky, and it strikes Bader in the chest as he's running, giving him a huge burst of energy that lets him run away at incredible speed until he disappears from their sight. At last, he's free. For the first time, he feels like no one is controlling him and that he's free forever. If you enjoyed the movie, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our new content.